Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Shay Ali here with you on Inspired Online. And today we're going all the way out to Sydney. It's a bit earlier than usual today because of the time difference, but we have the lovely Dr. David Paul with us. Now, I've seen David talk before. He's incredible. He's an expert in neuroscience and dealing with complex organisational change, which is what his PhD is in. He's worked with lots of organisations around the world, advising the Beijing Olympics Committee, for example, the Chinese government, the Australian government, the New Zealand transport system, I believe, all sorts of, very high level, very complex organizations, and giving them that juice to help them flow better, for want of a better term. So I'm absolutely thrilled to pieces that you've come to join me today. He's such an interesting guy as well. And we'll ask you the question that we ask all our speakers on here, which is, if you had to share your wisdom with the world in a nutshell, what would you say?
Given the current circumstances that the world is going through, I would say 3 words: bless and release.
Bless.
So bless and release. So we're all going through some very trying challenges. We're going through some very big shifts, emotionally, physically, psychologically. And it raises a lot of frustrations, impatience, and we also get short-tempered with people that we are working with. And so a lot of situations are very unusual. So I always say, bless that situation or bless that person and release it and let that situation go. Whether it's professional, whether it's social, whether it's family, whether it's relational, you really need to let it go. Otherwise, it eats away at you, and it brings your level of thinking, of acting, of behaving. It brings you low, and you don't want to do that.
Absolutely not. Is there a specific way that you bless a situation and release it?
Yeah. So blessing simply just means that you thank that person, that situation, that circumstance, that event, for what it's teaching you. It really is about, wow, I didn't know I could react that way, or wow, I didn't know that person could cause me to feel that way, or my goodness, I can't believe that I'm allowing myself to give into this. So it's really a lesson that situation, that person, that event is teaching you. And so rather than reacting to it, you want to be grateful for it, because it's a very important lesson. And once you learn the lesson, and you accept it, you realize that it will never come back again, because you've learned the lesson. But if you don't learn the lesson, you have to repeat it, and it will keep repeating.
So I'm going to use a colourful example in this. I do employment law, but I also do a lot of family law. So I'll take the example to, relationships at the moment. And, what I think both of us are seeing a lot of right now is a lot of tension there.
Huge.
And I've seen it particularly in people who are separated parents trying to agree with care for their children. And the amount of texts I get about my ex as well, let's not use bad language, but some quite choice language about the person that they've decided to create a child with. So, I mean, that person might have done something really bad. So, might have abused you, or might have very much broken your heart or upset you in some way. How would you bless that situation if you're still so emotionally involved?
Because you're so emotionally involved, whatever that person says or does, in fact, they don't have to say anything. They just sort of appear.
They have to exist.
I just have to mention their name, and it causes the mind and the body to react.
Mm.
And and you react in a bad way, which is, it doesn't affect the other person, it only affects you, and you know it. You know, it raises your blood pressure, you get irritated, you get worried, you get stressed, you get you know, you want to almost throw something at them, something, you know, quite awful. But the idea is, why why do they have so much power over you, is that question you should ask.
Wow.
Is, how is it, does that person, just by hearing their name, causes my body to react, my mind to just explode? And that's a lot of power that that person has over you,
Yes.
and in that situation.
Mm.
So what you should ask yourself is, why is my body reacting this way to that situation, to that person? Because if I took that person away, there'd be somebody else in your life who will come up with the same thing. So
It's a happy thought.
yeah. And so it's actually an interesting thought, because why do these people keep coming into your life? Why do these situations keep coming into your life? Why do these events keep happening to you where you're reacting that way? So that's a really interesting question to ponder about.
It is.
Because do you want it?
Well, probably not, but I'm wondering whether is there a neurological explanation as to why, you know, these situations keep happening. You know, and you see, you know, people going out with a certain type of person and then go, well, you know, they just weren't good enough, so I left them. And then guess what? It's a different iteration of that person that comes in a different body.
Yes.
You get that all
Yes.
over again. And then you think
Yes.
that person's not good enough. And then they come again in
Yes.
someone else. So,
Yes.
so why? Why does that happen?
So that's a very good question, and it's a deep question actually. But let's have a little bit of fun with this.
All right.
So for instance, imagine you've had a bad boss in a job, and you just can't wait either to leave the job or you want the boss to disappear. One or the other.
Yeah.
And so eventually, obviously, you can't make the boss disappear.
Shame.
So, so the
I've
best
only
thing
ever
to
had
do is,
one bad boss because
oh wow, you're lucky.
I've only ever been employed twice, once professionally and once. Do you know, I was, I don't think I should mention the name of the store, but I was employed
No.
in retail, and that boss was really bad. So she
Really
was
bad.
really, really
Yes.
bad. Anyway, but that's the only time. But anyway, carry on.
And how many times did the thought go through your head that you'd wish they'd fall under a bus or something, whatever the scenario is for you?
I guess I never wished her ill, and I'm quite a powerful manifester, so I try not to put thoughts out like that.
Right.
But I think, and this is getting really deep now, but I think I manifested her getting told off by head office.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I was quite happy.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. But you would have heard of people who wish they could, you know, find a way for that boss to go away.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation is, from the very simple to the very extreme. They would love that person to vanish, disappear, have something awful happen to them. So then you leave that job, that organization, and then you move to another organization.
Yeah.
And how often do you attract not the same boss, but the same frustrated emotion?
It happens.
So yeah. And you know, you thought, and our mind thinks, by changing geography, we will get rid of that reaction, that bad situation, but it repeats.
Yeah.
So, and you can test this out, but you will know people who've also changed countries to get away from that person, but yet that situation manifests itself. It comes the same kind of person, not exactly the same boss per se, but it's more the case of the same emotions come up inside you. And the question is why? So what you should think about is whatever you run from, you will run into over and over and over again
Wow.
until you learn to love and accept that situation, or you learn the lesson so you don't repeat the lesson. But if you don't learn the lesson, as you know, you'll have to keep repeating it till you get it. So the blessing part is be grateful that this person, this situation, this event, this circumstance is teaching you a lesson, and learn it quickly. Otherwise, you're the one who's going to suffer, not the other person. Because we talked about relationships earlier. How many times when people are broken up, they've thought about the other person, and they've thought, oh, they've been this, they've been that, they did this, they did that, and the other person has moved on, and they're not affected in any way, but you're affecting yourself. So the more you stress and worry and get irritated, just remember this: in a deep way, you're aging very fast on the inside.
Wow.
Because stress ages you. Stress and worry causes anxiety, which causes a whole lot of reactions inside the body. And that's a good way to get very quickly to the end of your shelf life.
Okay.
So that's why you want to bless that situation, so that you go, wow, I know you are so, so bad, but thank you for teaching me that lesson, and I will not let it affect me again.
Okay. And, the last thing you said, potentially that's the secret to anti-aging. So,
Yes.
would you say that someone who sort of practices gratitude or anything like that maybe looks a lot younger than they actually are?
Yeah, and it's actually a very beautiful point, because all the great teachers have always said, be grateful, because gratitude means that you are resonating as a person at a higher level. I liked what Michelle Obama said. She said, when they go low, we go high. And that simply means you're not going to be dragged to the bottom of that other person's emotional state. You want to be higher than them. You want to be able to bring the very best, the highest of you to that situation. I know it's hard, because I deal with that every day. I deal with that in the workplace. I deal with that in my personal life, my social life, and even in the current COVID-19 pandemic. We're all dealing with that.
Yeah.
But what is it that we are supposed to learn, so that when we come out of it, we're not going to repeat the same things, and we're going to work and live and perform and believe at a much higher level, so that we take into the workspace, we take into our relationships a much better version of me, rather than the lower version of me.
And how do you know that I love this topic because I talk about it a lot, but how do you know who the best version of you is? Is there a way to find that out?
Yeah, the best version of you is, the best way to test it is see who pushes your buttons, and see if the best version of you comes out to play, comes out to interact, comes out to relate to that person. And you know the best version and the worst version of yourself.
Okay.
So a good test to say is, am I bringing the best of me into the situation, or am I bringing the worst of me? And unfortunately, there's no neutral state. So it's either this or this. So, so you kind of know. And I think the more you aim for the higher or the best part of you, the better, the more you will raise the others up as well at the same time.
Lovely.
Because they'll go, yeah, because they'll want to be like you, because they'll go, this is not bothering you. So teach me how to do this. How can I be more like you?
Yeah. That's wonderful as well, and as you talked now about, you bringing your best self and that having that impact on others. And I want to go a bit deeper with that question about how you can impact others. So maybe from a religious perspective or an energetic perspective, you often hear people like, oh, I'll send you some good energy, or, you know, I'll be praying for you, or something like that. You know,
Yes.
and we hear lots of stories and examples about, you know, you might have been, well, let's keep it really simple. You were thinking about someone, maybe you haven't thought about them for like 20 years or something like that, and then the next thing that happens is they ring.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
well, what is going on there? Why does that happen?
How beautifully you've expressed that, because at the quantum physics level, don't be frightened of that word. It simply means that every single person, every single entity, every single thing on this planet resonates at a certain level.
Right.
And you can look this up. You can go very deep, or you can just realize that we all resonate at a certain level. And when you resonate at a higher level, in other words, you're bringing the best of you into a situation, you're almost being one with the space, the energy, the person that you're thinking about in that moment. And suddenly, before you know it, you get that call, you get that vibe, and somebody says, "Oh, I was just thinking about you, and I can't believe you called or you texted."
Yeah.
So that happens quite a bit. So it's so important then to allow yourself time every day to say, can I spend the next 5 minutes of me being at my very best? So the next day, can I make it 10 minutes of me being at my very best? And if it can't be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then just do it for 60 seconds. You know, you don't like this person, this situation, this phone call who's keeping you on hold for 30 minutes. Just say, I'm going to be my very best for 5 minutes. Because those are practical ways that we could all take into any situation. Bring your very best so that the other person is affected by it. The most exciting thing about the quantum field is that when you shift, the other person has to shift. They've got no choice.
Wow.
Because the moment you shift, they go, you're different today. You're behaving differently today. I don't know you. You look different. You're acting different. So they've got to adjust to the new you. So if you want to change somebody else, change you. Simplest way to change somebody.
Very good advice. Let's talk about the law of attraction, because we talked briefly about changing other people, and it might be the same answer to this, but I'll keep it very practical. You know, often we're told to watch our thoughts, and because our thoughts become reality, and obviously that can be positive and that can be negative. And again, why does that work?
That's a complex question.
I thought you could deal with it, so I'm asking it. It's not every day I have a doctor of neuroscience and complex human psychology. So yeah, I hope you'll forgive me.
Good one, Shay. Good one. The simplest explanation for that is that, do you know, everything is made out of atoms. Everything, whether it's the glasses I'm wearing, you know, the USB stick that I'm holding, whatever it is, everything is made up of atoms. And each atom, if you break that down again, break down into subatomic particles. So there's the electron, the neutron, for instance. So you break the particles down again, and what physicists are finding is that there is nothing between these particles. So I can't get any lower or smaller than literally empty space. So that's pretty complex if you actually think about it. But this is the most exciting thing, is when they take two electrons inside an atom. So for example, hydrogen, water is made out of hydrogen and oxygen. So 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. But when they separate these electrons and put them in 2 different places, something very interesting happens, and this is related to thought.
Yes.
So electrons behave as a static thing. So in other words, when you look at them, they literally occupy a space. But when you don't look at them, they occupy a whole lot of space, and they're behaving in very interesting waves and all sorts of things. You look at them, they become a particle. So your thought is able to control the fact that you're viewing this particle, the tiniest thing possible, means that you can change the reality of what's happening out there. So the higher your thoughts resonate, you're sending out these almost waves of energy that create or manifest what it is that you want. However, you can't just say, I want $1 million.
That'd be nice. Checks, please, too.
Nothing happens.
Mm.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because your brain understands words and language, but your heart only communicates through emotions and feelings.
Right.
And so the more you feel something, and feeling is believing. So for example, if I feel the warmth of my chair, the warmth of my bed, you feel it. You don't think, oh, that's hot. You actually feel it. So when you feel it, you believe it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you believe it, it creates. So those 3 steps are so important. Feel it, believe it, and let it go so that it can be created.
Okay.
But if you keep saying to yourself, I'm not good, or not good enough, or I want this, I want that, those are just words. Those are just thoughts that you have no feeling for. So separate the fact that the feeling is very different to the words. And so whatever you feel in your heart. So for example, when you fall in love, do you say to yourself, I think I'm in love, or do you actually feel it?
Yeah, I don't think it's an intellectual inquiry, to be
Well,
honest.
it's not a philosophical inquiry. It's nothing more than just pure feeling. Based on that power of feeling, you then come together and you do some fun things.
Yeah.
But if you just intellectually believed that you love that person, it doesn't last. So that's why talking about feeling, how many times have you felt when someone said, I'm sorry, and you know they didn't mean it?
I'm a
Because
lawyer,
those,
I do that a lot.
yeah, exactly. So
Sorry,
you
you
know,
felt
it's
that
just
way.
words.
It's just like, don't even bother saying that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the same thing is, until you can feel the other person feeling sorry, you don't believe them.
No.
So every word, literally every word, resonates at a certain feeling level. So when you resonate with the feeling, that's when you know it's going to happen. That's when you know that person means what they say.
Yeah.
So let me try this with you. What means more to you? Shay, I love you. You're really good. Or how does this look? Shay, I really love you.
Obviously, the second is incredible, and the first is
Right.
could be better.
Right. Yeah. And even more powerful is to make the brain stop for a moment and say, you I love. as opposed to I love you. Very different. Because when you put your attention on the thing that you believe is valuable, so it's you that I love, as opposed to I that I love, makes a big difference. So words, every word has resonance and meaning. So when you're talking about manifesting, focus on the thing that you really want and make it as if you have it.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the last piece of that process. One of the things that you said is, after you feel it, you have to let it go. And I want to talk about attachment, and somehow it seems very easy, for me, career-wise, for example. I've never been attached to, I must have X amount of clients this week, and it just seems to flow, so very non-attached. But when it's something that you are very attached to, somehow that's not as easy to bring about. So 2 questions around that, really. One, why is that so? And it seems very frustrating when sometimes it's the thing that you'd want the most. And 2, how can we let go when it's so hard sometimes?
2 very good questions. Let me answer it by, when you look up at the sky at night, do you see all these beautiful stars? Forget the light pollution, but when you can see the stars,
When I'm
do
in
you know?
Australia, hell yes. Oh my God. The best night
Yeah.
fly I ever saw was in Uluru.
Wow.
Just
Yeah. Amazing.
wow.
Okay. You've seen something amazing. So how many times have you noticed this situation happening? You look at a star and you see it really clearly. But when you take your focus off that star and you go slightly off center, you see a lot more.
Hmm.
Does that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
And therefore, and when you focus back on the star, all the other things fade that you
Yeah.
noticed before.
Yeah.
Okay. So and that's a very, very simple but very powerful tool to realize that once you believe that you are going to attract or manifest or create, you need to let it go so that the energy with which you release it can happen. But the moment you keep holding on to it and keep saying, I want, I want, I want, it's almost like you don't believe it. You haven't released it. Therefore, you're still holding on to it. And therefore it's saying, let me go so I can actually make it happen. As opposed to you're holding on to it, you haven't let go. So how can I make it happen? It's still inside you. So it's trapped there. So to answer that question, letting go is just know without doubt that it's going to happen. But you must be clear about it as well. So,
Yes,
when
that
people say,
lesson many times. Oh my God, yes.
yeah. So many times, you say, oh, I wish I had €1,000,000 or £1,000,000 or $1,000,000. That's not what you want. What you really want is the experience that £1,000,000, that €1,000,000 will give you, because you have to spend it to experience it.
True.
So you literally don't want the cash, you want the experience. When you're in a relationship, it's not the person that you're focused on, it's what you bring together and experience together. So the idea is you want to face and attract and hold on to the experience that you want to create, and then let it go. So that's why you want to bless it and release it. You said the beautiful word earlier on, and that is gratitude. Gratitude because you can feel it, but release it so that it can happen. So that person in your life, that event, that situation that you do not like, bless it because it's teaching you that, wow, this is teaching me a lesson. It's teaching me an important thing that I need to have.
Mm.
But if you don't let it go, it will just keep irritating you all the time.
And so I've got, God, so many questions for you, but I'm going to go with this one. There's a manifestation tool, if you like, called Mind Movie. I'm going to use that as an example. And the recommendation when you use that, a mind movie, for those of you that don't know what it is a collection of words and images. It's put into a video, or it's like a vision board, a video vision board. And the recommendation with something like that, or the recommendation from Mind Movie, is to watch that 3 times a day. If you have a vision board, the recommendation is to put it up, or if you're doing incantations or intentions, it's like you say them again and again. If I say once in my life, right, I want to be fit and healthy, and then expect that to happen, maybe I felt it and have really embodied it on that one day. You know, that sometimes isn't enough. Sometimes I need to go back and, embody that or look at that every day. So where's the balance in letting that go and also staying strong in your intention that, this is what I'm looking to have?
So think of the brain as an instrument, a tool for you to use. It's one of the most powerful tools, it is the most powerful tool in the universe that we have, actually. And it takes 42 days to create what's called a neural pathway.
Ah, okay.
So from the moment you want to do something or give up a habit or break a habit, it will take you 42 days.
Okay.
Now, until that time, so say you did it to 40 days, don't ask me why, but you haven't quite completed the pathway. So you have to start all over again.
Wow.
So for 42 days, let's just say you want to give up smoking, or you want to give up a habit, you want to get up early in the morning, you've got to do it every day for 42 days.
Wow.
Okay? So that's number one. Number two is it's that thinking, that belief, whatever it is, for 42 days, just go, this is what I really want. This is what I believe. So feel it, don't think it. So when you get up in the morning for 42 days, don't go, oh my gosh, I've got 10 days to go. Get up in the morning and go, wow, this is fantastic. Quitting smoking, day 30, don't go, oh gosh, I'm going to miss this. No, just go, wow, this is so exciting. I've done it for 30 days. So it's that notion of gratitude that you mentioned earlier. So what you're trying to teach the brain is that it has to make that thing almost automatic. The first thing it needs to do is go, oh, this is what I used to do, but this is what I'm going to do. Eventually it'll be, oh, this is what I always will do. And it gives up the past, whatever the past was. So, for instance, how many times have you driven from A to B? And let's imagine it's a familiar path that you've driven for many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it like the back of your hand.
Yeah, many of those.
Many days. So the moment, supposing I'm sitting in the car with you and I say, look, take a right here, don't go that way, we'll go this way. Your brain gets confused. It goes, no, but I've always gone that way.
Mm.
So it's breaking the habit of what is familiar, replacing it with something that you really want, something that you want to create in your life.
Nice.
But it's 42 days of persistence, but passionate love for that thing that you want to embody, gives the brain a chance to go, okay, let it go and let the new thing come.
So I'm assuming that means 42 days, not only to create a neural pathway, but also break a heavily embedded neural pathway that you have.
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Say that again, because that was very, very powerful, and that's important.
Was your stuff.
Right, well.
There's 42 days to create a neural pathway and 42 days to break a very heavily embedded neural pathway you might already have.
Yeah, and look how many years it's taken to build your neural pathways. So think of your showering routine. I bet you if I turn the lights off and in the dark, you can do your shower routine perfectly.
Yeah.
Because you've done it for so long.
Yeah.
But the moment I say do it differently, so let's just say you started from the head and worked your way down to your toes, do it the other way around. Start from your toes and work your way up. The body is going to go, what? The brain is going to go, what are you doing? But it's creating a new neural pathway. So, you know, when you do something on an automatic basis, say to yourself, I'm using my automatic neural pathways. So you want to break that, you want to shift that, and you've got to say, no, I'm going to do it differently today. So if you're buttoning your blouse or your shirt from the top button to the bottom, do it from the bottom to the top. Breaking the neural pathway that you're familiar with.
Wow.
So anything that you do automatically, just remember the brain is not thinking. It's just an autopilot.
Now, I know we're nearly at time, or we are at time. However, I do really want to ask you this because I'm very curious. We've talked about the law of attraction and some of the science behind that. We talked about bless and release, but it also does bring up the question of intuition. And I shared a story with you earlier about something I saw in hypnosis that many months later then just happened, you know, which I won't give you the whole context all over again. But, you know, some people get these intuitive flashes and then they happen. And so why is it that we get those of us that do? And, you know, you also talked about raising your frequency, and how can you do that if you want to tap more into that?
Good question. I think I need to come back next week.
It's a long answer. Maybe we'll do another one.
But a very simple answer would be intuition is the highest part of you trying to tell you that it's right. So if you trust your intuition, and by the way, you can develop your intuition very, very easily. But if you trust your intuition, you will never make a mistake. But if you trust your judgment, you will always make a mistake, because your judgment, you can always say, oh, that was wrong, that wasn't correct. And some people don't even say I was wrong. But intuition is all about trusting the very, very highest part of you. So you can't be at the lowest part of you and trust your intuition, because you are just trusting what's called the survival instinct. But intuition says the very best of me, the highest of me, will never, ever lie to you. It can never be wrong.
Yeah.
And the second part of your question, to answer that, is that just remember this one thing, and that is, you know the answer deep inside of you. But you've got to slow down enough so that you disengage this so that you can engage this, which is your heart.
Yeah.
So you know you can trust your heart. You just got to give it time. And every day, I'd say, spend 5 minutes alone with your heart.
Beautiful. David, I'm going to know that you have to go, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time, other than to ask, you know, how can our beautiful audience get in touch with you if they'd like to, and maybe learn a bit more about your work?
So I'll give you my email address. It's complexchange@gmail.com.
Lovely. Okay, and we'll post that on our facebook.com/inspired stage. So if you'd like to get in touch with David, do that there. And thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating. We'll love to have you back to talk about intuition a little bit more. And take care of yourself as well. I hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.